Okay, we'll be live in any second, and it's okay. We're live. Hey guys, we got an awesome show today. We got Brad back with us for the second time to tell the second part of his story. We're gonna play the intro and get started. It's gonna be an amazing show. So yeah. And just remember to hit subscribe, guys. And if you like the video, subscribe, and all that stuff. And subscribe on Rumble, subscribe on YouTube, and all that stuff. And hit the notification bell, all that. Yeah, yeah. So I kind of froze there for a second. Okay. A little bit more about my guest today. I'm really excited to have him back on the show. It's going to be awesome. We really got along well last time, so I'm really looking forward to this one. I have with me Brad Wol'haver. He's an independent researcher, truth seeker, and experiencer. He returns for part 2 of his incredible testimony. In our conversation, Brad revealed his first public account of a lucid dream recall that bled through to at least 6 different timelines. Now he's back to go deeper. This time, Brad expands on fragments of impossible events that still haunt him and patterns he's seeing towards the entirely new form of Covert operations and multidimensional bleedthroughs. And I'd like to give him a big warm welcome back to the show. Brad, thanks so much for coming back on, man. How are you?
I'm okay. Again, it's a hotter day in Florida. But, I don't know. I'm all right. Hopefully, there's not background sound of the fan buzzing too bad or anything like that.
No, you're good. I think StreamYard cancels all that out somehow, so it's good.
Okay. The cast like replaying the Lyran War right now. They're like having these battles back and forth. If they're stirring, it's definitely a cat battle rustling on the floor. I'm sorry. So where I was at the Egyptian area, and it's definitely good to. I don't really need to like fully restart. I feel like because I mentioned about it in the previous where we ended, but the Egyptian timeline that loaded was hot. We had heat at our backs before we found clothing. As we were walking away from the
What happened? Brad, you cut out. Are you there? I mean, I know you're there, but I mean, I can't hear you. If you can hear me, can you guys hear anything? Um, Something's going on. I don't know what's going on. Just hang on, guys. We'll figure it out. 1 second. He'll be back in a second. You know. All right. Let me see what's going on here. Wait 1 second. I'm just messaging him right now. Okay, well, hopefully he's back soon. Hey, Derek, how's it going? Alien Earth on FX. What's that about, Jason? That sounds good. Is that a movie or is that like a series? Hopefully Brad joins us again soon. I think he will. He's probably just got some he's probably just like can't join for some reason or whatever. Hey, Anchor Haven. Good to see you. I don't want to have to restart this live stream over if he doesn't come back, and then end the live stream, and then when he there he is. Here he is. Here we go.
Okay, is the mic on now? I have no idea what
Yeah,
happened.
you're good now. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, I hope that doesn't happen because, yeah, I
I
have
don't know
no
what happened.
idea.
That was weird.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe I plugged power into this headset, so maybe that rolled it out. So it's plugged on with power, shouldn't turn off. Okay, because that's really annoying. Okay, great. Okay, so where I was, where there was a lot of heat at our backs, we had to find clothing. There was basically like the outskirts of like a lower, kind of like, hard to find words for this, lower technology, not a lot of funning, like there's not money, there's not, they would use, they didn't have infrastructure for things to be built on the outside of this town like they would. It would be like the slums version of like their level of tech that they would have, because they wouldn't be a royalty or somebody within the city walls basically of this like metropolis city area that I was outside of while I was walking in this new timeline. So there were people in the distance. There was like the corner of the town, and we slowly walked our way towards it. And what we saw was the situation, like I explained, where like it was very run down. People were very poor. There were a lot of people that were also more wealthy merchants, but they were selling like leopard style of like hides and like things that 20th century people would kind of laugh at. Like I remember looking towards my uncle and for like a comic relief, like gesturing, who's also walking with me and trying to find something to wear, that it looked like the slums of like Tatooine. It looked like what is also shown in Stargate SG-1 of that level of like civilization, that they were smart, intelligent, normal human beings, but their clothing was like very earth toned, like it was very brown, gray, like dirty is typically the best you would have is like sandals. It was very low tech, like a low era of civilization, especially for those folks who didn't have like royalty, bloodline, family money, or whatever it may have been at that timeline or wherever I was that seemed like Earth. That when I looked across pictures and things, it seems like Edfu, Egypt, but this was a pretty large area. There was water there. I remember it being quite a bit. I remember it being similar to how it is in Florida in a way of like it's just so exhaustively hot, like dangerously so. Where the timeline where we were previously in the previous recording was like I was pretty much a Mowgli in the jungle of a South American rainforest cohabitation with for multiple generations. So I was very acclimated to the monsoons and the pace and the energy of the jungle versus being in a timeline to where now we have poverty again, we have disease in ways that are worse, we have like people that are dying like right on the streets right here. So it was super like day and night difference of like, dude, this is like nasty tattooing outside of here. This is like, these people are run down. So it was not hard for us to steal some cloth, but there was cloth being used for like the roofs and awnings of like a low style, older technology, like ghetto flea market. Essentially, it was like there were people that were selling like pots. People would open up their pots and they would have like all of these different, like they would have rices cooking, they would have chicken and meat stuff cooking, they would have hanging like chicken like on a string, like on these things. I remember it was like you could just grab the food and be like, I want this, how many of this many. They would have fruits lined up in certain areas, they would have like jugs of certain drinking containers of different things, they would have like the different things you could imagine. And then they would have like camels that they were selling. They had like merchants that were selling like carpet, like rugs. That was a popular thing for whatever reason, like silks and linens and styles. Those were more fancier. But they had the different levels of like you can come and spend whatever you want, but it was outside of this city that me and Kenny were learning we were outside of, that had these like walls that resembled very much like Edfu in its prime normal time. There's like I didn't have like a bunch of hieroglyphic stuff happening, but I do remember having like intricate walls, and there was like intricately light light brown and white and off-white colored tiles that were really pretty, that were fixtured within other cement borders. There were like there was very technical architecture that was in its time like mesmerizingly pretty. There were a lot more plants. um what else was We were walking towards, all these people, and we were kind of intimidated, but we noticed that these people were going to be were at their booth selling. Like, that's what they were doing. They were all lined up. So it was organized in that sense of business. So we were like, okay, so if we don't get caught stealing, we can get some chicken. And we did that. We stole some chicken and ate it, oddly enough. And then before that, we found some cloth and we put it over us as robes. And like I mentioned before earlier, I kept using Kenny as like an icebreaker because he's from my normal family. He's my uncle. And I kept using him as like, dude, you look so funny with the robes that you're wearing, with like your belly that's hanging out. But at whatever point, and I should mention even before I started that the Egyptian timeline and where I was is I need a lot of regression help, because it's like I really only recall about 3 months of being there, as far as I can, like, as far as time and guessing, and, like, it was a very brief visit, I would say, of that timeline. But at some point, Kenny is, like, gone. He's not around me anymore. Like, he splits off, and I don't have any recollection of, like, why or how. Like, maybe I lost him in the crowd of the people, but that's essentially where I started having memories of me and him had our cloth and stuff on, and then we stole the chicken safely and nobody knew it. And then he ate most of the chicken and I bit a little bit of it, and it was surprisingly better than I thought it would be. And at whatever after that, I lost, like, he isn't in my memory. He's just gone. He was just there for the duration of showing up in the previous timeline, asking me questions about the device before we jumped, we could say. He asked me those questions, and he appeared like my normal uncle. He was aboard the disc craft, we could say, with me when we did jump to this timeline, which would be said in the previous recording. But so I always my postulation was always that Kenny was like being used in some way of like an insert, and they were using his appearance and at whatever guess I would ever have of why he would even show up to begin with would be to learn about the device, learn how it jumps at all, learn how you operate it, or if you can whatever, like just trying to instigate any information he could scout from me. But um anyways, in the Egypt era, that's whenever he split away from me, and I just don't have further memory of him being around there. It was brief for like I don't remember him being with me by the time I made my way into like the city walls and actually had other recalls of the actual people who talked to me. So what I recall is that I feel like 2 weeks or so go on, and I'm realizing the reality of what it's like where I'm staying, and Kenny's gone for whatever reason, and I'm pretty much over that, but I'm sitting with myself, like, every evening and every day pretty much, like, trying to figure out if I am sure if I wanna go use the device again, because I knew where it was. It wasn't far from that town, and I could go back, and there's still that always recurring theme of I don't know where it's gonna send me. So I'm going back and forth in my head of like, all right, I'm sitting alone and one evening and the sun is setting to my back. And I remember having like a hood over my head a little bit, and I'm just minding my own business. And I have that in my mind. That's what is in my consciousness of like, dude, do I want to like chill here for longer? You've been here for a few weeks. It's not that great. It's worse than where you came from. You don't have any connections or family or loved ones. And it's just you're just here, like, so would and I was comparing it to where I came from, and like I don't know, I was like, okay, maybe I do want to use the device and get out of here. Like, this place does suck. Like, I didn't like it there. It wasn't a good time essentially for while I was there. But in the distance, there has to be a lot of stuff I don't remember because they knew me as the timeless one in this in this timeline. This voice in the background is I hear while I'm sitting alone trying to like while I'm going back and forth in my head of like, do I really want to go? Like, when should I go? It could be any timeline. I'm just thinking about those things, and someone trying to mind my own business, and someone is like, "Turn this one," and I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like, and just like I try to ignore it at first, and then they're like, "Turn this one," and then like they're closer and they're right behind me, and I kind of like turn myself and I look up, and they're standing kind of like towering down above me, and it was apparently like someone of royalty that was wearing like gold and whatnot. Like they were kind of commanding with their tone and they were trying to also be respectful, but they were like they basically it just sounds so ridiculous, but this guy tries to talk me into going to a dinner that they were having that night. And so he basically tries to sell it to me. He's like, "We're gonna have dancers and we're gonna have people that I would like you to meet that are my family that you could help with counsel. We're going to have wine, we're gonna have chicken and hog and blah 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 and all this stuff and music." And he's like really trying to sell it to me, and I'm like, "Okay, I'll come, no problem." Like I just like wanted to leave me alone. Like, sure, the guy, like, yeah, I'll come. So he's like, "Thank you, that will be splendid." So whatever part of memory now is, oh yeah, this part is kind of embarrassing. Anyways, this guy, and this is more of the faster version, but this guy kind of turns over to me whenever we're in a setting and it's like the gathering and there's the food and there's like this long table and they're in their fancy clothing and I'm pretty much just in like my bum rags, pretty much already ready to leave this timeline. I'm not from there. I kind of have a cocky attitude. I was just already being like interrupted in between trying to think of, do I want to leave the timeline or not? So I have, I have my own personal timeline problem issues while they're trying to have me have wine and celebrate like nothing is going on. Like it's all good. I'm like, that ain't even me, dude. Like, nah, like I'll enjoy. Yeah, give me. I did have some chicken. That was cool. But I was like, I'm having this in my mind. I was like, I'm having this, like, and I'm leaving tomorrow. Like, I don't, sorry. Like, my mind was pretty much made up. How forceful they were, how hedonistically like mindful, like they weren't mindful. They were just hedonistically like driven in a way where they weren't fully service to self, but they weren't um really understanding of like the whole coexisting nature, the whole collective of factors. They weren't looking at things in like a larger fourth, fifth, like larger density perspective. They were just like the here and now, beautiful women. I'm gonna get you drunk and maybe you'll get along with them. And that was his attitude of that time. And I'm like, bro, like, okay. So they hand me wine and he introduces me to these gorgeous, dark haired, brown-eyed, light brown-eyed, darker complexion women, and they were like, and I don't know, quite young, and I would say probably college age, I would guess. And I was around the same age, slightly older. I was in my later 20s around that time, I believe. And so I was like, whoa, these chicks are babes. Like they're hot as hell. They were in their fancy clothes. They were there to show off for the purpose, and they nailed it. And I was just like, okay, the guy that interrupted me this afternoon, like, I'm gonna pardon you. Your family, you have got some beautiful relatives. Like I was like, okay, all right. So they were friendly, and those women started talking to me. And the women, I had like, I remember there was like a translator for the women basically at first, and the translator was basically like, they wanted you to know that you seem different and that they also were different. And if you could speak to them tonight, they would be very pleased and happy if you would at least speak to them. And I said, different? That was one of my cats. I was like, different? What do you mean different? Like, and I just started like kind of acting like this attitude. Like I had this attitude of like, I'm already leaving this timeline. I'm from a different kind of century. And I started saying things like that they would think is unbelievable. And I'm like, I own lizards where I live, and it's easy to find water all day long. I have fresh water all day long where I'm from. I started talking about where like Florida and stuff, and like owning things and doing things you can't do, obviously, there. And that was how I related to these three women who thought they were so different because they were treated different, essentially in their society, as much as I can gather from it. So that's why their uncle was like, oh, come consult and talk to these three women. And so over these conversations, these ladies essentially got me drunk. And one thing did lead to another, and to my embarrassment and humility and honesty and transparency, we all ended up basically, I feel like that was my first Karma Sutra experience with like intention setting, so much so that they were we were able to communicate to a certain extent, but they did pretty much seduce me in a way where I stayed with them overnight and we did have sex. And I do have like vivid memories of like what kind of position it was, and that there was a moonlight that came through the type of area that they showed me. Like they led me to this area that was separate, and it was kind of like a tower somewhat, and it was a room that allowed the moonlight to come through, so I was able to have natural lighting. And there was also a shisha. I guess we were smoking. We had like a
Wow.
shisha in there. It was weird. There was like on the floor, I remember there being like a fancy rug and then like these fancy pillows, and there wasn't a bed. That's all we had. And so like it was very different in that way. Um it's I remember they got me pretty damn drunk. I remember it was like a nice red wine that I had that night. And I enjoyed it, and they liked it too. And so we basically vibed and partied in a way, like, and their hedonistic culture, like they were very welcoming towards this randomness, as far as I recollect. So, I mean, they were, as far as consent goes, 100%. They were more so of like, we find you attractive, and I don't know. It was pretty wild. Like I went along with it, and it was awesome, but they were very seductive in their whole setup of with me. So I'm gonna be honest about that too. Like remote viewers could learn things I don't know, and they're welcome to. I want this to be honest and transparent. If it's good or bad, or I just need to be humble through it and honest as far as I feel like. But
It's amazing
uh,
though. It really
it
is.
is. Thank you. I agree. I sincerely think it is. I feel like that's accurate, but it's also really unbelievably it's amazingly unbelievable too. Like there's no way around of like it's so profound over the years. Like while I was really wanting, like maybe it's kind of wild on my end, but I was really wanting someone to come out on a podcast of some disclosure thing, and they started talking about this to where I was learning, or they started talking about this to where I was like, yeah, that I'm one of what? There's more people in this program. Like it never happened to where someone like released a drawing of this. And then on the other hand, there are multiple people who can recognize each other from like Montauk and from like the secret space program and from like more and more and more things collectively. And over the years, I was like, man, what are my chances? Like just to, I don't know, kind of reverb to normal life. It's like, dude, I wanted someone to have all these details where my memory is missing, and I wanted someone to like know what this device is, and then be like, yeah, you don't need to make like I want to make a 3D rendering of it so we can look at it in every way versus just right now I have sketches and drawings. But I really, for over the last, I don't know, 7+ years of listening to awesome Disclosure podcasts, as they have been able to survive, no one has said, people have said things that I relate to that are helpful, but they haven't given that, like, oh, you were in this program too, ever. So it's very like isolated and lonely in that sense, to where it's like, if I went up to a conference, then you would have like SSP people that all relate to each other, even though a lot of them don't get along. Sorry, but a lot of them don't. I don't have a connection to anyone, so like it would be hard to even believe me. My connection doesn't really connect to like what Penny would say about the secret space program, like, but it would relate in time travel ways, and how your brain would be like, how recall is, it just came out of nowhere kind of factor, and you have all of these extra memories that are, I, you could just infinitely almost go, because it's like a whole another life that you've lived that's longer than this one in my case, and in her case, and 60 and back and 20 and back folks, survivors. um but mine's still different though. Mine is from using a device, and mine was like, I do have these childhood memories of like, since we're way later, it's the underground train stations, and that's where we started this podcast, basically, or like this being honest and me coming out and coming forth, which thank you again for allowing me to have like a space for doing that. and being open about my testimony and what I do remember so far. But it's amazing, but it's just like overwhelming too. It's like a lot of crap to heal. Like that's why I'm like so obsessed with surfing again. It's like, dude, if I can just like go out there, paddle out, duck dive, catch a wave here and there that won't even last that long, and just get wet and have fun, man, that will get my mind off of stuff like this to where like again, just to say it, my bleedthroughs came through really bad in my normal day job. Like it would just be like, especially if you have a lot of time to yourself and you're doing something at your job or whatever it may be, if, especially like a boring 3D or whatever job, or even if in your spare time of like good leisure things, my recalls will just come back and I'll be like, I don't really necessarily want to like have that going on right now. And I want to focus on this moment right now and not have something like invade my space with like some crazy PTSD of like some people getting murdered and like killed in some timeline that's not even right now. And then I'll literally be trying to like focus on something, and then like I'll have to navigate and have this mental health a whole aspect of mental health that's like I really can't mess around with like things that can trigger my recall that I don't want to have around. Like I will really set up in a safe way, you know, to function and navigate. But it like took years to be able to be like, okay, like I don't know, I how open should I be with this friend about like what's actually going on inside with me, like why I'm actually pissed. Like it's not something in the streets. It wasn't me not learning that like crooked grind 180 out that I was trying. That's not what I'm pissed about. It'll be something. It's not my dad who's an alcoholic drunk. It's not even this realm. It's like, no, I'm kind of bothered because like I have a lot that I have to heal about it, and I have to be very consistent on like how a person is on like AA. Like I live too long in the programs to not have like every day I need to be like, all right, dude, like don't let this overwhelm you about from the programs if it triggers you. Like it's like a day-to-day life of like after I came back and woke up in 2014 with all these impossible memories. And it was like, first of all, it didn't make any sense to anything. And then as I learned and like researched and like started unraveling the youngin, there were others who had experienced impossible things, and that was cool. But eventually you get to a point to where people can find you if you're in their program. But for me, it's been pretty solitary. It's been pretty like, no one ever came out and said anything about this, and I wish they still would. Because I want this to be wide open for anyone that knows anything as an open study completely. Everything should be that way. But
Yeah.
um
Wow.
it's pretty easy to write about it and stuff, but I feel like it's even easier to talk about it, and I want the information to be released. Like that's my main thing. Like I always say, is like I just want the information to be out there. I'm not trying to have like some profit of anything. Like I want to shape surfboards and stuff, and have like I'm a hard worker and a normal person. Like it's a normal person as far as like 3D goes and getting along kosher with people and minding my own business, you know, and like doing my dark work and like handling normal everyday stresses. Like I have my skateboarding still. Like I have things that I'll be able to go and be surfing again, and I'll be crazy about that. Like, and those things help so much for getting a free time without as much of a risk of like a flood or like a flashback or like a recall memory coming back, or like it'll bring me more peace to physically go and do those things out in the weather too, out in the ocean when it comes to surfing. But I mean, I can totally, you know, obviously bounce back to where my story was, but
Yeah, I feel you. I the same way. I kind of want to just like escape to the Outer Banks for a little bit. Like I had fun when I was in Florida. But,
100%.
like I really, especially now because it's hurricane season. It's
Yep.
like which I mean hurricane season's coming up, but I mean that's the best time to go too. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
not during hurricanes, but the storms, the tropical storms and stuff
Yeah,
like
when they're just
get
sitting out
chilled out.
there.
Yeah, and
Oh,
that's
dude,
like
I can do something with you. I just thought of. Okay, so you have awareness of harp. So, what if there was something that was able to have like a lower intensity and it would just sit out in the ocean wherever, say outside of Outer Banks, in a safe magnitude, but it would just blow the wind right there and then create a swell, and then it would be like head high. It wouldn't need to be overkill, you know, like a hurricane, and to create a harp storm is probably like a lot more energy and focus versus you and me just want like a tropical storm or like a category 1 and some wind, and then it to just go away and then have that fetch of waves that came from it. I wish
Well, you
harp
know,
had
they have
something.
wave pools too. Did you ever see those wave pools they have? Like they're not
Dude,
like the ones
they're
like.
building one really close to us. There's actually more in Florida than I knew for wave pools. They're building one in Panama City Beach. Like, I want to apply and be like, guys, I want to be like working for y'all. And yeah,
Hell yeah,
that stuff
man!
is
You
so
should.
neat.
You really should.
I
You
would
know, like
try. Like, I'm gonna try. We're trying to move in that direction, closer to the water and everything. And then like my reports would be like, yeah, the surf sucked, but I learned airs or something cool. But that's just kind of where we are right now in life, is like in the middle way of getting back. There's good skate parks here, but it's like, I don't know, I'm kind of outgrew this area. And like you say, like, I don't know, it's relaxing out here on the Gulf and stuff. It's kind of low key, and then like hurricane season can blow some like pretty clean stuff in before the bad storm gets to us. Those early fetches or the later fetches. I remember I skimboarded during Hurricane Faye, and we came back from a fishing tournament that we shouldn't have gone out in, and there were like 12 to 14 foot faces just from like it was like just from the hurricane. Well, it wasn't a hurricane, but it was just from like how powerful the weather actually was condensed and out there. But
wow.
yeah, I don't know. Like, you've been to the Outer Banks though. That's anyways. We can always bomb stuff with surfing info. That's always fun. It's like
I know, right? We could do a whole podcast on it. You know, like
we
seriously.
can like I'm down, you know, because I guess you can always throw it out there as far as like what do you do whenever it comes to like these things where like we're facing all of the people are targeted and people are survivors, and there's all these like super difficult, challenging categories that a lot of us in the community are in. But like I say, I guess maybe I personally haven't come across it and it is happening, but I wish there was more talk of like, what do you do with your mental health after the programs? Because this shit sucks for me. Like, I was a skateboarder before, and it really helped to like really get back into it since then.
I think
But
people should
yeah,
do more stuff like that to heal themselves. You know what I mean? I think like if they had
yeah,
people like stuff that they were passionate about, it would help the
me
healing
too.
process.
Exactly, like through and through. It matches up every time, and as much as you would practice it and apply it, it will show results and the fruits of your labor and that good karma for that work. You know, it's like you could relate that to your dark work. It doesn't, like, that's the thing where I feel like, okay, I am writing my book about the timeline, the other timeline visits, but then like I feel like what kind of like pisses me off and where I have a chip on my shoulder is like, I feel like while I'm doing all this, it's a pain in the ass to remember these negative memories, but it's like, okay, if I've existed and experienced all of that time personally, then I need to like kind of put up or show up. I need to kind of have a responsibility as a person that would represent someone who has that much experience. So then that would come with,
Yeah.
okay, well, how do you apply that to normal life and like, you know, your mental health? Everyone has mental health and we're all under attack essentially, you know, especially since COVID. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Jason brought up a really good chat. I just wanted to say this real quick, not to get off the subject. Jason
yeah,
said he loves that the cameraman gets a bunch of credit for surf edits, which is true. They do give the cameraman, like if you watch a lot of surf videos, they do give the cameraman a lot of credit because like the cameraman's essential for you. You know, people can't. I mean, I'm sure you can get a GoPro and film yourself, but you're not going to get the magnitude of what's going on. You know, you want to get
yeah.
the
I've
camera.
had a GoPro on my skimboard.
You know,
Yeah.
well,
GoPros are
yeah,
super fun.
yeah,
I
they
had them.
are.
I still had some clips, I think, of like me with my skimboard, and I mounted the GoPro up on the nose, and so the perspective on the board is like you see me kind of like shimmying and hustling and running really fast, and you see the board wiggling a little bit, and then you see the board scoot up in front of me, and you see me running and catching up, and you see my feet hit the deck, and then you just see like the board digging rails and spraying pretty much behind me. Like you see the barrel coming over me. It was sick. Like, but
Do
skimming is so like fast and just like skating kind of.
do you fall a lot in skimboarding?
I would probably describe it like skimmers. I have, but a lot of the time, like your commitment and your skimming is kind of like you'll pull out of it or you'll just bail over into the deeper water instead of like right on the flat and everything. Like you're usually in deeper water or you'll kind of pull out over the wave like you would surfing. Like whenever you're done on a wave that's like not very good and you just want to pull out, you know, and like lean really
Yeah.
hard into the rail and like cut off of it with all that power. But I have plenty of times, but I mean as a skateboarder it's nowhere near like it's raw and, you know, like trying sets and practicing heel flips and landing primo and like, you know, all the things that can come with like rolling your ankles like crazy. Like skateboarding, I feel like is way more gnarly as far as comparing to skimming, as far as I've gone skimming. There are bigger conditions, of course, but that's just, we already know that.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, like I mean, like I've had it both ways. Like I've almost drowned in Virginia Beach. Like it was like 7 foot waves. I was in, and like was but when I really didn't know a lot about surfing, and like a local like basically saved me. Like I kind of got caught in the break. Like but then also with skateboarding, I almost hurt myself like really bad a bunch of times. Like where like you said, I've hurt my ankles. Like my ankles are like hurt like damaged basically, but like like I don't know. Yeah. So I've had it both ways. You know what I mean? Like
right.
but I tried to do martial arts a lot throughout my life too. I always did
Awesome.
like, like I did like jujitsu and stuff like that. So like, I always like to be in shape. This is the first time in my life I've been out of shape, like I've never,
Right.
or one of the, like I'll go up and down, but I mean, like, I don't know. Yeah.
It's
I
cool to
love,
learn that. Maybe we should
yeah.
do like an episode and then I'll ask you stuff about, we'll like talk about normal life, I guess. Like we could do, I'd be down for that if you wanted to. Cause like I always thought of, we never get to hear as much about you because you're the interviewer. Like, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, I get camera shy. You know what I mean? I do better just
Oh, you,
talking like,
oh,
you know.
okay. It makes sense
I
too.
do
That's
though. Like I'm doing
understandable.
some girls podcast like soon, but like I don't know. Like I would do it for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would. But do you want to start back on the
Yeah.
story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, yeah, where I was with those women, and it was in that, like cement style, elevated building that had the moonlight coming in, and there was the shisha, at least one shisha hookah. There was, like I said, on the floors, it was fancy rugs, fancy, like, not velour, but very silky, soft feeling. As good as I can remember, their red wine that they got me drunk with, first of all, was good to begin with. I'm just gonna be honest, because that was half of the trick there to get me drunk wherever those three ladies or whatever are. I remember it where it was like in the room, it was two of them, and then one like went to bed early, and then the other two stayed up with me, and then we made love, basically, I should say. But after that, I don't have some connection. Like I believe I got up in the morning and then I went and I looked for the craft to leave the timeline. Because like I said, that day before I was already pretty much sold that that's what I was gonna do and my mind was made up. So I need regressions, like I say, for the whole Egyptian timeline. A lot of that story could change just for transparency and disclosure. I That is the best of my recollection, and I that definitely did happen with the Karma Sutra stuff and the ladies and with the wine, and because I can kind of still remember the smell, like the smell and taste of the wine, and I can kind of still kind of remember how the feeling of the soft pillows were, that was basically making up a bed that we were making love on, essentially was the scene. But
Well,
I left that scene and then I was headed for the device, and I went without any trouble this time and without my random uncle showing up. I went over onto the device and no one saw it, and I loaded a timeline that was cooler weather, and I could feel the wind as the blocks started to load again. I did it, I believe, in daytime. From It was daytime that I got up in the warm Egyptian area that morning. So I went straight for the device, and when it loaded like a cooler evening, and it was grassy plains with flowing rivers, and there were mountains in the distance, and it seems and feels like somewhere like an ancient Montana. Like, it looked kind of like a Mount Shasta majestic scene area with these gorgeous ravine rivers, crystals come flowing, like these rivers flowing down in streams. You would see all of these water and river stream systems flowing down the elevation change of how all of the hill and the mountainside were meeting, because the rolling plains would eventually, like I said, in the distance there was like a distance of like massive mountains like Colorado in the background, but out where I was, it was like grassy plain land that started loading up for a new timeline all around me in all directions, like every timeline jump or timeline skip, or I'm missing the right words to kind of make up for them to have a language for what took place, essentially, so it would help to make more sense. But it loaded like these grasslands, and there I didn't see any people, and the sun was coming down on me, and I sat on the machine and just like crossed my legs and started to meditate, because it was just like this gorgeous scene that I started like tearing up from, because it was so peaceful. Because that basically the machine, like I've said every time, like I can't emphasize enough that I never had any choosing of where I was gonna go. It was random every timeline I went somewhere. It was random every time. So it was just loading in all directions with, like I say, these massive 300-mile long, massive rectangular domino gridlock like shapes that start fitting together in the grid shapes of the earth, that if you looked at it from behind your back and then you like looked right back forward, you would see it loading up from behind you, and like I said earlier, making the curvature of the earth to go over the sky, and then all of the more of the air and the clouds and the skyline and more views of the sun rays and everything else would start to fill in for all of the area that's being loaded around you from that raw headed shaped disk device that I've utilized, that, like I say, I do have drawings of. But I just sat on the disc and meditated for a while. I looked around. I was in tears. I was very grateful that I was at a place of peace. There weren't um, large cities or anything. There wasn't pollution. It was a very, like, the air felt crisp and cooler. The energy felt like lightened. Like the energy of that timeline felt like it was better. And that was a home, that was like a home feeling for me compared to like the Mayan timeline. It had a similar like density that was less, I would try to describe, but it was similar to that. And to my memory, I was like sitting down, looking over all that stuff for like, I just sat there for like the evening. I was so stoked. I was like, wow. I was at a higher elevation, sitting on the device, looking down into this like rolling plains, and the clouds are in the distance, and I can see like this a little bit of like rain coming down in the distance. It's like this just lush, gorgeous green open grassland plains, and then you could see like a forest starting to grow in a different like border area of like, it would start, it was just nothing but open grassland plains and rivers and streams. And I believe it's like an ancient Montana of America. While I was meditating on the device, eventually some Native American style group came and, like, they were on horses, and they came and saw me, and they came and looked at me and stared at me, and then I looked at them. I was basically like smiling and didn't say anything to them, and then they were staring at me because I was on the device, and that was what they were like, really like, what's going on here, and interested, and standing there for a minute. They're like, this one white guy, big deal, but that device, I was still like, they caught me, they saw me whenever they came and found me. They saw me, and then I opened my eyes. I was still meditating on the disc, and I opened my eyes, and here's these like Native American Indian guys with some horses, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how to speak to these guys. And so they kind of like just stare me down, and they see that I'm chill, I guess. And they invite me to follow them, and I see a trail that they're walking on anyways, because it was like part of this top of a hill line that was going down. It was a natural hill you would take going down deeper into lower elevation towards the streams to get to the water and the river lower than us that I was watching before I even decided to join them. So I joined them and walked with them, and I have vague memories, but with these people, I ended up living with them in a similar way to the Mayans, but for like 9 to 15 generations of them. Like they're born, and they also did a ceremony for the falling, and they would have a ceremony for some chieftains, and they would have a ceremony for like a female princess style, whatever they call it, but they would have an heir ceremony. So it was really easy to follow these generations. But what happened, I learned with them, is that me being ingrained and them allowing me to live with them, and me being in this compassionate observer position of not even having to eat to stay alive as far as I can remember, but being not able to be harmed in any sense. I essentially did the same pattern took place as like I ended up living with these Native Americans, and I was embedded into their spiritual community even more so this time, to where I personally feel like they learned how to, like, they ascended at some level. I feel like that they were able to understand manifestation, because I feel like they taught me, or I would be able to relearn. I believe they taught something about in their spiritual practices, like reincarnating, and it was totally source practice. It was like God's Christ consciousness, total Christos Sophia style practices, and being completely like the guardians and protectors of the lands is how they were living. But I feel like they merged from having generations to being able to incarnate after 15 generations or whatever. They were so spiritually advanced. I remember being so blissfully happy just being able to recall that I had been able to be among them, and how strict yet disciplined, and just understanding that they knew how to help you learn everything, how spiritually adaptive they were as like spiritual Jedi teachers, basically, in this some kind of Native American group. I don't know what group, but sadly, the same type of pattern happens, to where I'm around them for so many generations, which it seems like 15, I believe. And they live long lives, where it was like 75 years or longer in some cases. They were very healthy, to where I was around for that much time with them, to where they also would ask me the stories about their elders. But essentially, I was just stuck with them, basically. Like, I didn't want to leave them, and that was the best case scenario. So I never went back to the device except to check on it over like eons, basically. I stayed with those tribes because they were the best option, and I didn't know where the time travel device would send me if I used it even. So it was like, I am stuck, and this is pretty much as good as it gets. So they got invaded as well, just like the Mayan people did eventually. They got invaded, and that killing was even more traumatizing to what I need to heal in my memory. That is what comes through and is really crappy, like at work and stuff. My worst bleed throughs come through from that attack. There's really also bad equal ones from the Mayan timeline, from those memories of that attack and invasion. But they held nothing. Both groups held nothing but peace in their tribe, but it was also, I don't know, it was just more evil, it felt like, upon the native people. They were nothing but the embodiment of peaceful beings. Like I say, they helped me ascend. They ascended to levels that you would definitely omit and burn up if you were trying to cause a genocide. You would stop people from being able to learn all of their Jedi abilities or their codes and their whole family history tree and their star family, and like the actual ascension teachings. They were teaching nothing but it in a small group that I was with for like 15 generations, to where I helped them remember early teachings because I happened to be there and they allowed me to stay in their tribe. But I wasn't necessarily like an order grail keeper or a record keeper, I happen to just be there and I remembered it, and I would never lie to them, and I would say it's like this in this a matter of fact way, and this happened, and I live with your grandparents, and this happened, and then that's all they would want. They would be like very content because they would just want to know what their family was like or whatever. They were very simple, like, but they got invaded extremely bad. Um, and I kind of wonder, honestly, where I would just stop for a second, where it's like, for me to be involved into this, maybe they were tracking and they were trying to help the invasion take place. I don't know why. Like, they have this invasion reoccurring theme that happens while I've already, like, I feel like maybe I didn't know it. Was I used to be a mole, like a spy, like a time spy, and I was just sit to wait and direct whatever negative forces to go and kill these spiritual forces that are a good tree, like a good family tree of spiritual masters that are maybe the Cathars or whatever it may have been. The actual hunted down families, though, are the ones who allowed me to live with them for the longest amount of times, as it happened to be. But it makes me wonder these years after this, not just why and whatever, but what was the motive to have? Was I possibly a mole that was there to sit and wait like a time capsule that couldn't be harmed, that could be waiting, that what I wouldn't know it, but if I could be tracked in whatever, if this being a program, because I sure as hell didn't spiritually activate this or ask for it or anything like this, it happened without my consent, all of it. It makes me wonder to the point of, did these timeline rippling, negative, damaging invasion wars that happened that I was a witness for, did they have something to do with the deep state and the negative forces that were running this program? Were they wanting to insert themselves at the attack moment through time travel capability? Were they wanting, or was I like a trap? Was I, because I feel like maybe I was able to, maybe they just used me and I was able to use the device. But
I don't know. That's a good question.
because I just don't like, if I'm used, there's going to be a motive for it. For them to be using me, they would have a motive to go to all the trouble, especially, to even educate the theory. It's postulating a hell of a lot. Yet I have so many things that I totally can't forget, that is like, it is going to take, it's going to be a long road, humbly, to keep healing these memories that I have of these like attacks and these women and children being killed, and like the horses that were killed as collateral damage, like I said in the other video, of like the Mayan invasion attack era, we could say. But yeah, that it was very, like, I should say, to go to where we really are in the story of like the Native American and me being with them, they definitely ingrained in within me like spiritual teachings that are helpful for the present day, and spiritual, I kind of want to call them precepts, but that's more of like the Buddhist coming through, that just like a way of living that pretty much a lot of us ascension family style people are doing and living. It's like just being around similar people to like ourselves. But I definitely got a lot of really invaluable teaching and love and benefit from being with those Native Americans before they did perish, and before they were slaughtered completely in front of me, and is in my life going to be a thing I have to heal, and have been healing over these years since 2014, since I woke up with these memories. That, I mean, they help me deal with modern day stress and stuff, but it's also that I have an unmodern thing I have to heal that's not from this timeline. Like, it's always fun to go back to the alcoholic dad abuse and be like, that's this timeline, and I can go see a therapist for that, and I can talk to my homie about that. But this other shit, and being taken in an underground railroad system whenever I was like 8, and then me waking up with a recall from this raw-headed device, time travel device, and these hundreds of years of recall of being with these other tribes, etc. Like, it's pretty hard to unpack the can of worms. So I'll bounce to it, I guess, that they get invaded, and then I go over to the device, and then I load into another timeline. I left them all behind. I remember more good than bad of like being among those people, but they were very like strict in what they taught and what they spoke. And I feel like the Mayan people were maybe more spiritually open-minded and carefree, and the Native Americans seemed like they were more disciplined and like you need to be more on your P's and Q's and well behaved. But they definitely ingrained a lot of peace within me. And I'm not someone who has any blood. Like, I have German RH negative blood. Like, I don't have any like Mayan ancestry or any like Egyptian ancestry or any Native American essentially ancestry where I went to these timelines. So I've always never thought that this is any like my own family and I went and hung out with them and it's like a previous life. It's not, it's like, no, I physically, as far as I remember, I went physically and I was returned to my bed.
Wow.
But yeah, it loads me into a timeline, and this timeline, after I use the device, and after it loads me from that Native American tribe pretty much being slaughtered, I had the device not too far from there. I went there into the mud where there was a lot of blood on the way, and then it actually loaded a like I feel like it's like a 1950s kind of like it's an American city. It's like a big metropolis. Maybe it's like Chicago or something. But it was an era where like the people had like polka dot clothing. They only had certain colors on. They were still driving in like big body Chryslers, and my device loaded. This is weird. This is the worst timeline, even though it's the shortest. Or no, not this. No, it's not this. I guess it's not the shortest, but it's the worst. I loaded under a sign that was right next to a highway, and there were cars, and like the overpass, there was like cars passing by, and there were like American muscle cars, and there was like the growl of all the V8s, and the road still looked clean back then, despite they were in like this automotive boom kind of thing going on. This, I think, was a false timeline, by the way. I need to precept it with that. But I was in this timeline where it was like the 50s, and there was this lady. I remember she was walking her baby, and the baby stroller was a monstrosity. It was so big. It was like the old school, made out of metal wiring in some sections, with the big like top like convertible thing that like you can flip it up, and then there's the baby, and then like you can cover it up completely, and it's like the baby will be completely covered in this huge baby stroller this lady was walking. So I was in like this cul-de-sac, like this like half corner road neighborhood, and it's white picket fences, and I'm just like gazing in that like, whoa, I like, this is me panning left to right where I'm like, wait a second, I'm like, this is America. Like, I could read stop signs and business signs. I was like, this is what? I was like, what the fuck? I'm in America? What? And then like instantly, like I smelt for the first time in the longest time, like fumes and like the car engines, gas and like exhaust. And I was like, oh, no, I wasn't used to it again. I was used to like straight native jungles or straight native, like ancient times where there wasn't pollution. So I was used to clean air everywhere. And I was just like, smog and stuff hit me. And oh God. So I was just like, whoa, cool. I'm like, wait, this is gonna be dangerous. People have weapons and knives. We're at an hour now, but
You're good. You can keep talking. We're
okay.
good. Till 7 because
Okay.
I have another show at 8, so I just needed like an hour in between.
Right.
You know? So
Gotcha.
yeah,
Right,
so
cool.
you're on East Coast time, right? You're on East Coast time
also
too?
Eastern. Yeah.
Yeah, so like seven's good. You know, we can go till 9.
Okay. So yeah, it's like a 50s like a mid 50s era going on, and there's all these bigger cars like there should be, with the big long Chrysler wings going back, like exotic 57s. I don't know, maybe it was early 60s, late 50s maybe. But there were ladies in like fancier dresses, and they were like obviously way more covered up than modern day. It was definitely sometime in the past, and that was super obvious. And I was like, okay, well, I'll see how this goes. It didn't go good. So I step off the device and I start walking down this neighborhood, and it's like a nice neighborhood. And I'm just kind of like looking at taking in the scene, and I'm just like, I wonder if I can't recall, like I couldn't spot it. Like I'm like, is this like Chicago? Is this what St. Louis would look like? And this a lot. What I'm trying to get I'm like, it's not New York. It's not like East Coast, West Coast. It's like Midwest city and this other timeline. And I'm like, I'm just kind of in my head, like soaking it in. It's nice. It's a nice afternoon. And I'm just like, this seems pleasant. It's a pleasant afternoon. And so that's kind of in my head, back and forth. And I'm kind of looking at the sky, and I'm just kind of soaking it all. That beautiful sunset. The sun's going down in the afternoon. So I'm looking left or right. Moon, stop. My little kitten needs to grow up. Anyways, I'm looking left or right, and the sun's about to start going down. It's a really pretty sunset, and I start looking over in that direction, and I see this thing flying in the sky, and it's like a meteor. And I remember it being like, like a golden orange color, like the flaming orange color. And I remember it arcing across the sky from my right to my left, and the sun was setting to my right. And so this was coming from the direction of where the sun was setting. I think it was an east ground to like air missile, but it was arcing in this arcway. And I remember in this like half a second moment, I was watching it go across the sky and arcing almost like a slow motion half a second moment. And I'm sitting here in my head and I say it out loud. I'm like, is that like a nuclear was going to be my next guess? Because I was like, how far away is it going? Like I was watching an arc and I'm like, well, is that arcing way far away from me to where it's not as bad as ground zero? And so that's my consciousness is like, okay, I'm watching this arc. How far away is it going to arc? And so I watch from left to right, this thing cruising in the atmosphere pretty low. And then it arcs and then makes its hit. And then the next thing I remember is my eyesight goes away. I lose my eyesight. I'm lifted in the air, and like I say, I'm indestructible in this experience, but I have side effects. So everything goes white. I'm lifted in the air. A blast wave goes off, and I'm floating in the air, and it kind of lifts me up in the air and kind of pushes me backwards for about a foot, and then I drop down to my feet after like the shockwave moment is over. It lifts me up, and I'm like being kind of like the shockwave is pushing through me, I guess. And I land back on my feet after that duration, half a second is over. And then I fall to my knees, and my hearing is gone. I can't hear anything, and my eyesight is gone. I can't see anything. And so I instantly basically started freaking out, and it would waste time to emphasize like how freaked out I was, but I did not know. I figured it was a nuclear blast, and I think it was, but eventually I mean, I remembered I was screaming because I was freaking out so much that I did not want to have any part of this. I had already gone through these multiple like invasions. I just got back from an invasion of the Native Americans, and then this explosion goes off. Everyone around me is dead. Everything around me is leveled except for rebar, cement, and like streets and things that I was stumbling over until I got my eyesight back in like hours. It took like, I don't know, 4 hours to get eyesight back. It came back and all I could see was white ashes in every direction. There was just like this ash cloud that was floating everywhere in every direction of these constant ashes coming down. And they were like white, and it was like heavy. It was almost like feathers almost. It was like tons of endless ashes just coming down from the sky, and everything looked like white, and you couldn't really see anything. It was just like a whiteout effect. And eventually my hearing came back, but I remember my vision came back because I started seeing flames. As my vision was coming back, I started noticing that the light, the ambient light coming off of flames and things that were still set on fire that night is whenever like my eyesight was like getting better, and I was like, everything around me is burnt to fire. Like, and yeah, I at this point I was emotionally done, and I was trying to kill myself. Like, I was trying, even within the program, I was like, I'm fucking done with this. Like, I am done being whatever this is. Like, so I grabbed rebar, and sorry, I was trying to. I was basically like Superman, as fake as it sounds. I could not harm myself at all, just like the nuclear blast couldn't harm me at all. I was grabbing rebar and trying to slam it into my chest so it would like go through my heart, and it was bending the rebar. It was peeling the rebar back where my fingers were on it. It was like twisting it sideways every time. It would just like boink into my chest. I would hardly feel a bump, and then the rebar would bend. I was trying to grab rebar and jam it through my eye socket, and it would not go. Like, I could barely feel a bump. Like, it wouldn't even scratch my eye. I couldn't be harmed, so I couldn't kill myself.
Wow.
And that was the worst feeling ever, of not being able to even consensually like take your own life, and like you're stuck being immortal, was at that point the worst torture ever. I was so emotionally done. I was like, I was praying, I was crying. I was like, I was trying to get out of it, and I was just stuck there. And like rebar, I'm trying to slam rebar into my left eye, and it's just like just bending and twisting and making all these wild sounds, and I'm just like, and agonizing, like, I am fucking done with this shit. So I eventually go back and I find the damn device again through all the rubbish. It takes me like, I walk for like 3 weeks, I think. And it's just like I get lost in how much ashes there are, how much rubble is just nothing but left. It's just like a city area of rubble left over. And I was trying to find the device and where it would be left over, and where the device would be unharmed out of the city of rubble that just exploded around me, essentially, kind of like from, I believe, a nuclear blast. That's why I call my book Nuclear Proof, because for whatever impossible, really shitty scenario, I was able to walk through a nuclear blast, and then that's the aftermath of like, I have chapters of like, let me actually, I'll just open it up and see what I have here for. There's 50s era Chicago metropolis, weeks of ashes. Yeah. Weeks of ashes. Like, I walked for weeks trying to find like that device, and I never could, obviously, because it's covered up in like a nuclear blast of a massive metropolis city. So I think that's the most human. I mean, I know for a fact I am leaving out parts that I am mentally unaware of that did take place. 100%. Like, so totally reiterate that. I am totally leaving out, not on purpose. I just don't remember it. But I know that I remember so much that these are just the leftover. Like, these are the significant and positive and negative anchor memories is really where I related with Johann Fritz and his testimony, because it's that and Penny, of course, and anyways, okay, so I think I can actually wrap it up. Actually, thank you. Where I walk around and I find that device, and then this next thing, I don't even remember booting the device. I really don't. The next thing, I just remember me being in a dark area, kind of, and what it seemed like was a hall of mirrors. Or wait, no. I'm my bad. I messed up. I messed up one timeline. I messed up a future one. My bad. I should. Damn it. That one's after. Okay, let me go back to where I was stepping on the device after that Metropolis city blew up. My apologies. I use the device and it loads a future timeline that looks 100% like, funnily enough, the Nikola Tesla memes, like what if Tesla's information, it's the future cities is what it showed. And there were floating cars on the level of like, it was similar to the Fifth Element, but the Fifth Element is grimy and dirty, and all of this was superbly Star Wars future looking, like clean. There were buildings that there were no like straight lines. Everything was rounded off. Even the curbs, that there were still like kind of like a pavement asphalt similar thing. Even though cars floated, there was an area for roads where you wouldn't want to walk, so cars have like that respected space to come like land lower. But they had levels of traffic. They had like where you can have the cars down there at your ground level. But I remember I was talking to some people and they were positive. Everything was positive with this future timeline. And I don't know if it's real or not, but it was just what I remember, because I don't think that it couldn't be real that in history there was a nuclear blast that went off in America, or we would remember it. So I think that was not a real timeline that I loaded into that we know of, I guess. But now that I've jumped around 1,000 times,
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
This is insane. It's. I mean, like, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
It's crazy. It's too hard to believe. Like, I remember everything was rounded. The cars were rounded. They were white in the future timeline. There was, I don't remember the conversation that was taking place. I don't think I can remember how they were dressed. I was looking at the architecture, and the buildings had a lot of plants and like trees or some kind of vegetation and plants were incorporated always with every architectural design. They had a lot of open glass. It was like completely glass almost. And then it had like white, kind of like rounded white sections of like just portions of the design of the building going up in the shape of like similar to normal building shapes, but they're all rounded. None of them are square. None of the road curves or anything they were all rounded. The curves that even the shapes of like where you would step up onto an elevated curb, even that was shaped completely different. They were like smaller, and they were shaped with like this perfection of like this curb shaped. Like everything was like this perfection of architectural shape, and it always had all of these plants interwoven into the design of as high as they wanted to build on levels, just elevated. And then I do remember there was traffic going away and towards you, but then that would be like one level, and then above that there would be the same thing happening where there was like multiple layers and levels of traffic that was the flying cars and vehicles. And like there were people were able to like step into the vehicle. Like a lot of the things would just like open up. For like Star Citizen had a lot of similar aesthetics put into that game, and that's a futuristic space sci-fi game to where they had these doors that would open up on the cars that were just like they would fold back into itself, kind of like a medbed style, but it was just like this whole van, this whole futuristic like hyper van would like open up the window, and then people would like hop into it really fast, and then like the thing would kind of like cascade back and fold back, like the window would fold back down, and then they would like be gone really fast. They didn't have doors. Like, it was that was the briefest timeline. It was like a 15-minute conversation in what seemed like a future timeline. And then finally, the very last thing that happened was like a hallway of mirrors where I was. I don't remember the device. I don't remember the time travel device. Like after that future city, I don't remember it being on the ground. I would need regression for that to learn more about that futuristic timeline. It was just super vague, and I was just kind of looking around at what there was to see if like the streets and the cars and the buildings and plants being incorporated agriculturally in every case. They were like very respectful of like clean air and plants in their architecture and like the future timeline. But anyways, like then the next thing I just remember is like this hallway of mirrors, and it's like all dark, and I felt like weird about it. I felt like I was being observed in this area where you would be walking, and it's just like this, like a 3.5 inch to 4 inch wide, like solid, like it just seemed like like a like it would be clear, like an emerald kind of thing, like a piece of glass sitting there, not a mirror, but like a big chunk, like an obelisk kind of, and it was just like down this hallway of these like clear glass hallways. Like you would take a turn, and then like you could see that like the glass would be about to have a turn down the hallway. Like you could, because you could see through the glass that was about to come. I don't know what it is, but it was some area where I was walking through, and it was just glass in all directions. And then you would like turn a corner, and then it would just be more of the same aesthetic of like glass that maybe it can be turned on or activated. I've been working with Chastity Ann to try and find out like what and where that is. She was saying that she was getting like some emerald and like a light blue emerald style color coming off of those mirror things that were in these hallways that I was walking down. I've wondered if it's like the Hall of Mirrors or the Halls of Amenti, but I don't know. It was just what I remembered was being this very strange, like it was just like a hallway, and it would turn, then like another style of like another hallway, and it would just be like more of this like glass that's just going down in hallways of glass. It was weird. Like I don't know if that was like a ship. I don't know if it was like something where that glass is an intelligence similar to the device that I use. I don't know if it was like it was something used to clear most of my memories from this experience before I was returned to my bed, because it was the last thing I remembered. I was just like going through these hallways of like this glass stuff, and then I could like kind of see through it. It was clear enough to where like you could kind of see like the architecture design of where you're about to go as you were kind of making your way there. But it was super strange, and I felt like I was being observed. And then I basically woke up in my bed. Well, completely woke up in my bed in Navarre, Florida in 2014. And then everything that I said are the memories that were pretty much flooding back. I woke up and had the most shitty morning of my life of like crying and processing and like, what the fuck? Like, not having language for what all of this was, not making any sense at all. Like, being with these tribes, and like I could not forget the device itself, and then that means that I couldn't forget what it does, and then that meant that I couldn't forget the anchor memories of like these peaceful, beautiful people with darker tan skin, the jaguars that were chasing me down, and that first lady that was breastfeeding the little kid. Like, I had all of these memories flooding back as soon as I woke up. I was like freaking completely out of like, what? Where did this come from? And then like slowly I would reach out to my homies of like, dude, I don't know, like what in the hell happened to me? And then like they would have a cool theory of what happened to me, but like nothing matches close enough of like the SSP and the other programs and these other like non-consented, totally you were abducted since a kid and groomed for it. Like, it's fortunately I don't have like satanic ritual like recall memories at all. I just have like the invasion, and that's pretty satanic to me, is how they killed people. That's where I have bad memories from the program, but it's not like at a level that is similar to the others per se. But thank you.
Well,
That's all of it. That's more or less, that's everything I'm trying to cram into my book. That it's been since 2014, and like I said, I really wanted someone to like have some info, and then like here's this like really like you know, like this guy went to college or whatever, and this guy's a super awesome like independent researcher, and then like they are telling me what I was a part of, like that could happen, but I like have been kind of like, why has no one talked about this whenever I definitely went through hundreds of years of recall without even any regression help. I feel like, I mean, even in that train station scenario of me in the beginning of like on the other recording, it's like other people had to be trafficked and used in this underground railroad station. Like, just because I don't remember other people, like, you know, other kids and students or whatever we may have been, these lab rat Stranger Things 11 kids, it's just been weird that no one's like really mentioned any of this since it's so extensive and so hard to forget. But that is like pretty much that's the chunk of it. And there I'll probably will be able to like, I think getting help from other people would be like the next step of like getting more whenever I want to face like the recall of what happened and whatnot, and probably questions would probably be like the next thing is to like, I don't know, like, because there's only so much I can do with it. It's like this is an open study of something that took place, and I can make pictures of it, and I can make a 3D model of it for people to visually see. But I really wish that there was someone else that had like more. I really feel like there is going to be other information on this that is going to be able to leak out at some point, but it's been really frustrating whenever there's like just so limited information. But
Yeah, I agree.
like,
It seems like it's like you like time traveled in a lucid dream. You know what I mean? Like, but like it was
right,
more than a lucid dream. It seems like it was like an actual time traveling like experience. You know, like it was
like
like
I
a
it's the and back experience part of it. I think it's that aspect is how my brain. I was thinking of it earlier as like it's the and back part. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever, however many 100 years in the program, but then the and back is I'm what's left of it. Is like this is the aftermath of that taking place. I wake up in my bed and like I have these impossible memories, and I'm like this. I'm not a military. I'm a normal, you know, like a normal American. I was never U.S. Navy. I have no reason to be utilized in anything, and I've never consented to be utilized in anything that would be like that. I had no. It was just, you know, and this right in front of me. It's right there, and that's also as far as I can remember. There could be a lot of details of important things that I have no memory of. Maybe it's more of a peaceful life that I don't remember it. I'm kind of like I like having my own
you know.
peace.
I'm going to tell you.
Do what?
Yeah, but my friend, I just remember this. My friend Black Uni's in the chat. Her name's Black Uni Gryphon. She does reality shifting, and she says a lot of people are doing this now, where they go into like altered states and they shift realities. They go from one reality to the next. You know what I mean? Like it's like a
Right.
community of people, like they're trying to do this. But like it sounds to me like you accessed like some kind of time travel device or something.
Yeah,
You know?
it's that machine. Like anything, you know, I say about me and stuff, I've always also like wanted to have some way to reiterate of like that machine is so important and I wonder where it is type of thing of like, yeah, I'm just the messenger really, but that machine, you can literally go to different timelines with it. That is another thing that's probably like under the Vatican, or if I was some awesome remote viewer, I want to find that thing. It doesn't belong to a hidden clandestine like humans. Like that's what my thing is about. It's just like people need to know that these devices are somehow real, and these are technologies that are way past what we've been told, obviously, and that's where it falls into disclosure for my personal experience. And I really want to stick to, since it's so much, I'll just stick to what I've experienced and what I know, and then I like to learn about the SSP stuff around it to help me try and find more answers to this. But
That's a
yeah, I
good
think it
point.
was like I was returned to my bed like in 2014, as far as I'm concerned. Like I was returned to my bed and I was sweaty and I got up, freaked out from this. But I think that it's the 20 and back kind of factor. Like the and back however long you were used, you were returned, and then it's like as if nothing happened, except for years later on, whenever you're returned, you can have recalls at some certain point. And mine came through, like, you know, in the form of a lucid dream, and that's without regressive hypnosis regressive hypnosis therapy, because that will be really painful for me to even start to look at, which I'm down with. I'm down to do the like difficult thing, but it's also but no one even knows about where I'm even starting with this. So thank you for giving me a place to even like try to have a reference point. It's so hard to even like it. I don't want anyone to assume this is all like, take it with a million grains of salt. Like, it's just what I remember. And I feel like that's going to be for the case of like, I wasn't anyone special in my thing. Like, there's certain themes in people's recalls where they were special and they were trained. Like, mine was like this solo mission, and it was like, this was just thrown to me and I just woke up with it. And that's just, you know, kind of like cut and dry. Like, that's just what I know kind of deal. Like I say, like as an everyday person, like I'll have my book, and then that'll just be to get more truth out. But I don't plan on being like in the disclosure community for like anything other than just like telling this kind of thing that I have had experience with, honestly, and from learning. Honestly, more so for learning versus me putting out like I don't like my content really. Like, I love and appreciate, thank you so much that I have a place to speak about it, but a lot of it is painful. A lot of it is like, I'd rather just be not a sheeple, but I'd rather focus on something positive than like it's annoying to write my book in the difficult sections of where there's invasions and I want to have accurate detail, and it's from like my eyes and my boots on the ground experience where I saw it take place with no proof, with nothing, you know, just this really hard to follow story to begin with. That, you know, like I feel like the program would be like, yeah, even if he remembers anything, like no one's gonna believe it. It'll be hard to write about, it'll be hard to follow, etc. And it really, that kind of fits. Like, it's really hard to
Yeah,
even
well,
like
no, I
have
mean,
language
it's
for.
fascinating. I think it's fascinating. This was amazing. Like, you know, it was um, uh, um, this Brooke says in the chat. She says, "Where would you go next? Are there therapists or are there healing centers yet? Like, you know, for this kind of stuff, would you do like regression or what? Like,
Yeah, I want to do regression, but that's something for me to learn about. One is doing those. I've worked a little bit with a friend, Chastity. Um, and I think I'll reach out to Trago Reed. And I have a little bit with Trago, but I think I'm gonna face the fire with that, even though it's gonna be painful, and the recall is gonna be pretty painful in a lot of areas. It's gonna be interesting to see what I learn. I have things to learn as far as like, I don't know if there are healing centers for this type of thing. Personally, for me, I've come across more infiltration and subterfuge and counter intel and seeders and people who just have too much ego, even if they aren't evil or on the agenda, to like, it's really hard to find trustworthy help in a realm that is like, I've just made friends and pretty much just my homies, I guess. It's like, you're a friend, you know, like, and I've told this story to you. This is the first time I've ever been able, thank you so much, to say all of it. No one's ever even sat through all of this story. Like, I've kept this to myself, tried to, for a lot of it since 2014. Like, it's like this thing that haunts me. So it's like, I just try to do whatever I can for like the surfing and the skateboarding stuff. And, I don't know, helping others is a very helpful thing, but I don't know if there's like a center to go to. I think there's other people that I can work with. Mary Rodwell has helped with regressions and others, and she's been very friendly. Are there other questions, or should I?
is there any other questions before we go? We still have a couple minutes. Um, this is just a comment from Trish. She says I've woken. I'm trying to put it up on the screen. She says I've woken feeling devolution or lower time space and felt something's wrong. I'm in all moments of true divine time as my new mantra. I don't know.
Sounds like a good mantra.
Black Uni Graveland says hang 10.
Yeah,
That's an old school
get
surfing
along,
term.
boy.
That's yeah. Sovereign Cosmic Wildman says, dude, I always get here late when the shows are almost over. Well, there's two more tonight. Yeah. You should go on Anchor Haven's podcast. You could do good with her. She's a friend of mine.
I'll write it down. Oh yeah, podcasting with others that want to hear this crazy story. Like I'll tell it more, but that's really what I mean. Like whenever I was with those Mayans, and like for a lot of the time, it was they really embedded like this kind of like a religion practice to sit around the fire and just talk. Like how what we're doing right now is what they taught. So that was really ingrained in me, and like I feel like I'm doing a really good thing if I'm like sitting around the fire like we are right now on the podcast in the modern day, and we're just talking about things like that's the wisdom that the ancients were doing that is underrated completely. Like what we're doing right now in this present moment with all of the and with our other podcasts, it that's the exact same thing that they're doing sitting around the fire in ancient Mayan times and learning the most blessed or the most cursed lessons, like the most valuable things about life is what they're talking about around their fires, and here we are with our fires. It's the same thing.
This is from Sovereign Cosmic Wildman. He says, "Are you familiar with Michael Tessarian? He used to go symbolic decoding." That was towards the Earth grid. He was saying that too. But I mean,
Okay.
do you know Michael Tessarian? Do you know his work?
No, I'm gonna write all this stuff down. That's exciting. So that's the best thing ever is like to come here. Like I'm gonna remain a student. So learning from everyone is really kind of the smartest position to be in.
Jay Skyrunner says, "Me too, but nobody likes me." Jay, everybody likes you. Don't say that. That's crazy, man. You're a good dude. He's a good dude. He's a good friend of mine. He has his own show and he's a good person. Jay, everybody likes you. You're a good dude, man. Don't say that. You're a good person, man. Let me see here.
It's hard to do interviews sometimes though, to reach out to people if you don't know others throughout. Can't remember them.
I'm just going through some of these comments. How would they feel about the screens? What does she mean by that? I don't know what she means by that.
Me neither.
Some of these comments.
Well, you can't. I mean, oh, you would? Okay. Because I'll be honest with people and talk to them, like, especially if you're like, oh, this is my homie. Because that's the only way you're going to find anyone, honestly. I've tried for so long to not just like have people post the content, but just reach out to the right people that will even have you on live for one, post an experiencer, and like post wanting to actually like go out into the public with it. I wasn't doing that until like a year and a half or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not paranoid like I was then, but I'm a lot more healed as well.
This is a good one from Trish. She says there will be a protocol for time fuckery on Sanskrit manual YouTube page. She is genuinely the best person. So write that skin suit. I don't know why I said Sanskrit. Okay. I said it's called Skin Suit Manual YouTube page. She's
This is fun as hell. This is my favorite form of school. Thank you. I got that written down. And then I'll go back and rewatch this. So this was the shit thank you so much, man, for having me on. Because this is the right environment,
It was awesome. I enjoyed it.
And I don't know if you wanted to do future things. Slavka wants me to be on her channel. We've been in talks and wanted to collaborate for a while. I'm just friendly and I know she's awesome. So awesome. I was like, at first I was like, you, me, and her are all friends. That would be fun to all go on together or something.
Sure. Yeah.
We would have maybe me and her.
She did shows like she went to she was living in Turkey and she went to Göbekli Tepe and we did a live stream from here. I was from here, and
Yeah.
then she did one from the pyramids too, dude.
The
It was
times
a mix.
difference is crazy. Dude, that's so awesome. She really is
I
such an
never thought I
awesome
would see the
connection.
pyramids. I saw the pyramids
What?
on like documentaries, but I never. It was like being on my own live stream. It was like I could see them from like, it was like I was seeing them real time, even though I wasn't
That's
there. I
so
kind of was.
awesome.
You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
was weird. It was like,
That's
yeah,
cool.
like
Only you can only do that if you have the most awesome friends ever around the world. That's so rad.
hell yeah, right?
Yeah,
Because
she's
like
great.
yeah, she is. Let's do that for sure. I'll set.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to set that up
That'd
or
be
help me
so fun.
set that up, we can do it. We'll
Dude,
do it absolutely for
yeah.
sure.
I think me and Slavka would probably be best to like work it around your busier schedule, and then you can fit me and her in, and then we could all hang out maybe whenever you have a fat window of time, kind of coming soon. Would that be okay? Or
Yeah, I have some openings around. I'm gonna get a hold of Jay Skyrunner too. He wanted me. I'll get a hold of it. I have like the 19th, 20th, 21st, 24th, 25th, 28th, 29th, and
that's
31st all
pretty
open.
open. Okay.
I have a bunch of open days. It's just these next few days I have like 4 podcasts a day. I have like 4 today and I have 4
4 day.
tomorrow. I don't know why I did so many. I don't know why I overscheduled myself, but I just did. Like but I got to learn to say no. So I don't say
That's a
no.
hard thing to do, man. That's a difficult boundary.
Yeah,
Especially when it's like, well, thank you for having me on for one, and I'll definitely be happy to
yeah,
do future. Well, so we can set up the you, me, Slavka trio.
for
Something coming
sure,
up would be
absolutely.
really fun. I think I'll talk to her on. Thank you for, I know time is valuable, so I don't want to. You've had me on here
Oh,
for so much,
you're
so
you're awesome. I could talk to you forever, man. You're awesome. Like I really get along with you. Really,
likewise.
it's
Especially with
awesome,
the
man.
surfing thing, that just nailed it. Like shot in the dark was like, wait, you really surf line? Ever since that live, I was like, whoa, I never knew. It's cool to
It was
learn
a
about
big
you. That's what I
place,
mean.
man. Because I had a really, I'll just tell you real quick. I had a really good job. I was a mortgage broker. I mean, it wasn't good for the soul, but it was good for my
For
pocket.
the money. Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
know
So
about
that's
this
what you
stuff.
meant.
Man. I was like
Right.
25, 26, 28
Oh,
years old doing. I was
exactly.
doing this, and like what happened was I had a friend that I used to skateboard with here in Pittsburgh. He was living out in California, and he started surfing out there. And then I was going to North Carolina, and I was surfing there. So when he moved back home to Pittsburgh, we were like, we should go on like surf trips. And like we were like,
Yeah.
yeah. And for me, as like a 20-year-old in the middle of my 20s, like, dude, all I wanted to do was go to the surf. I wanted to surf and I wanted to go to strip
Everything.
clubs. And that's what we did. We would
That's
go
so
like,
funny.
like a beach town. We would go like hit the boardwalk,
I
do
would
all
have
the
been right
nostalgic
there with
stuff,
you.
get good bomb food, surf waves, and
Yeah.
then hit the strip clubs at night or to find girls to hang out with. And dude, it
Yeah.
was like I had some of the best times of my life. And some of the places you would never think of, like Ocean City, New Jersey, Ocean City, Maryland, Outer
Yeah.
Banks, North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina. I was
Yeah,
even in Florida.
yeah.
I even stayed on the beach for a little bit, like Jensen Beach, Florida. If you know where that is, by the Port St. Lucie Pier. I was right there. I was all over the place on the East Coast.
Okay.
I never made
Damn.
it to West Hawaii, but I was all over the East
Me
Coast.
neither. I want to, but I mean, I feel like it's a good lift off point from where I am. I'll be on the Gulf and be set up there, and then it'll be like there will be swells that come through. It's been better than it has been in the last couple of years over there, but it's a good lift off point. Like if I can go from there to other places, then it'll be even better. But just being closer to the water for
Hell
me
yeah.
is like that's number one.
Kelly
But
Slater
yeah,
did it. Kelly Slater somehow made himself
Florida
into one of the
native,
best surfers in the world, and he was
Florida
from
natives,
Florida.
Sterling Spencer too.
I
He's
mean,
he's more low key, but he's awesome.
I can't
But
believe you knew
yeah,
about Brett Barley. People
well,
know about Brett Barley. You have to
that's
really do
another
a lot of surfing to
thing.
know about Brett Barley.
Yeah, that's another thing. He's such a rad guy. So what's the deal with you met him in person? You saw
I
him?
may have. I can't remember, but I have a East Coast surfing video. It's called ESM Surfing Magazine. Always Right, and he was
Yeah.
featured in there way back 2006. And then I just kind of followed all the guys from the There were a lot of guys from the
Yeah,
North
gotcha.
Carolina area that kind of started to get
That's
big in
so
surfing.
pure and
I may have
awesome. I
crossed
dig it.
paths with them, but I don't think I ever hung out
You
with them or
probably have
anything.
out there because you were in like his home territory. But yeah, I don't know, probably in the last couple of years I heard about him because like Surfline has him on, and I saw an interview that was showing the Outer Banks, and then he was in there, and he had on his channel on YouTube, he has a lot of like trip tips, like trick tips and stuff. So I was like, wait, okay. So I looked at a couple of those, and they were all like very informative, straight to the point, no bullshit, no crappy commercials, nothing, just straight, like the guy is just straight core, like one of the
Yeah.
bros, and he's also like a Christian. Also, he has that aspect of things going on, of like very humble and vulnerable, of like he is a worldwide surfer, but he also like brings up like the spiritual aspects and balancing out things of it's not all gung ho
Sometimes
and
I felt,
chasing
I'll tell you
waves.
one more thing though. It's like sometimes I didn't, I'd be a lot of places and I would surf, but I wouldn't like communicate with a lot of people because sometimes it would be like real aggressive. Like, bro, I guess you'd say
Oh, the
aggro and
localism,
start.
yeah, dude.
Yeah, because
I've
like
had
I remember,
Floridians be so mean, bro. Oh my! I remember in
yeah,
middle school, I went to this one spot. It was like a shell island spot, and it was firing. And I went, and I only had my bodyboard with me, and I was like, "Cool, dude. I can just go bodyboard and get a couple of waves, no problem, and come back to the family." Nah, man, this one surfer kid dropped it on me first thing, cut back, and he sprayed so much in my face. I was just like, "Oh, dude, these locals are mean." Like right away. He was like, "Get out of here. This is my spot." It was I was a little kid, and he was some other little lanky middle school kid, like some teenager. And he was just like, the localism was so savage. I was just like a little punk kid, like, wait, that kid's another little punk kid. This is his spot. Oh, man. But yeah, like, I mean, it can be hit or miss in Florida. People are pretty chill in the Gulf of like, I'll share always. I like to see
it
other
was like
people
that
get
in
waves.
Jersey. I think we
Oh,
talked
yeah.
about
I
this. The
wonder.
Jersey water was really dark, and I went to I was
Ah!
in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and then there's like Ocean City, Jersey, like right next to Atlantic City, and people surf off like a not a pier, but like a why am I forgetting what the name of this thing is?
Like a
Like a
jetty,
jetty. It's a
or
jetty.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, they surf off
the
a
rocks
jetty,
going down.
and if you can't drop in, you can't even be in the lineup. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
if you can't drop in, at least you can't even be there. They'll kick you right out. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I saw them do it to people.
Hierarchy.
It was like really like kind of like it was really intimidating. Like I knew what I was doing then, but I mean I wasn't like amazing or anything like that. So I
But
don't know. Yeah,
still,
it was fun though. It's fun. I'd love to get back to. I'd love to get in shape and get back to the ocean, man. That's my dream. Like
I
I feel
support
like
it.
I'm being taunted to not be by the ocean. That's why I love being in Florida for 10 days because I love the ocean. Like even if there
Right.
wasn't waves, there was maybe there
Oh,
was
I
one day there was like
know.
maybe 1 foot waves, but it was still
Right.
amazing just being at the ocean. Because
Yeah,
I live in
definitely.
Pittsburgh where it's inland. It's like
It's the
it's. I
inland
mean, we have
thing.
the rivers here, but that's it. It's like it's really
Even
bad.
here, it's too far inland. Like, we have a lake, and I like to go fishing, and I like the water, but it's just like we're at least an hour or more to get to, the real Gulf this far inland, living this far north in Florida. So I'm like, I want to go south at least a little bit. So I'm at least a little bit closer to the water and the beach bridge and whatever the area may have, of that I can find a spot that's decent enough to rent or whatever. Because I have family in that direction in the Panhandle. But yeah, that's my goal basically, is to go over there, and I totally support it. Like, I've been skating in the last couple of years, and I'm super happy with my skateboarding, but my surfing, I know I could like level it up and make it get so good and enjoy it. And that reason too, just being in the water, just getting wet, just like having dolphins, fish around, like looking for sharks, being in the clear water. And like that's I can do things in the off season in Florida, whenever the weather cools off and the tourists get out of here, then us locals can actually like go out there, have our own private spot, have our own lineup of just me and the roommate and chill, like, or people that you may meet that are really, I don't know. I've met some pretty rad surfers, but there are definitely like, I would rather surf
Yeah.
alone, instead of being a rough lineup of people that are like Hawaiians almost, that are aggressive and cutthroat. And
Yeah. You mentioned dolphins. I'll say one more thing before we go real quick was I when I was in Florida, I was in the water up to about my knees because like I got an infection. I think I got an infection from the hot tub from the hotel or whatever. And I was trying to like clean my like I didn't want to go into the water like completely. I don't know, like like I was
just let the
I don't
salt
know.
hit it.
Yeah, I was like, the salt hit my feet, and I told Gina was with me, and I was like, and the people from the audience know Gina Virginia Casella. She was my roommate for the trip and stuff, but I was like, holy shit, look. And all of a sudden you saw Flipper, like, he was
Right
like,
there.
he was real close in shore. And then there was another one. And then they went a little bit further out. It was almost like they were zigzagging in the water going, oh, so I dropped my phone. They were like zigzagging in the water going, like out further, but they started like
Yeah.
real close, and like, it was 2 dolphins. It was amazing, man. Like it was
Love
like,
it.
I hadn't seen dolphins in a long time, like it was
Maybe
really
they
cool.
knew they got to show off whenever you're like really worthy of the occasion and you're right there. You like earned your stripes. You're like, let's show off for the guy. He surfs.
Yeah.
It's a surfer. We got to show him what we got. We're the locals. They're pretty friendly out there. Yeah, this was rad.
This was awesome, man. Keep in touch, man, and
Definitely.
do you want to tell people where they can find you and stuff? And do you want me to post that link?
Yeah, you're welcome to post that. I'll probably make an Instagram more for that. I'm kind of just seeing how this goes with all of it. My main thing is just to get the info out and to go on another podcast. But we'll set up that one fun with Yumi and Slavka. That'd be sweet.
That sounds good, man.
Slavka hang out.
Thanks, guys. I'll be live again at 8 p.m. Eastern and then 9 p.m. Eastern. I have Tommy Edwards coming on. I have Casey, the wise woman, coming on at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then Tommy Edwards at 9 p.m. Eastern. I think Casey's going to talk about MK Ultra survival and like herbs and stuff like that. And then Tommy's going to talk about targeting. So that's kind of like the lineup for tonight. So yeah, thanks, man. And thank you, everybody. And until tonight, and have a good night, everyone. And take care, guys. Oh, it's not letting me end the live stream now.